Okay, all right, we're on. And we're really on this time, like totally on point, got everything down. Jeff's on time, I'm on time, and yeah, whew, we're rocking as a team here, so it feels pretty good. And we're back into another semester, my 44th year of teaching. So I heard the story of Ralph Nader, the consumer. Um, he's not really an activist. I mean, he's a consumer lawyer. It's pro-consumer lawyer who's probably saved more lives than anybody I can imagine. Anyway, he had a sister who was teaching at a university until she was 90. She's 95 today, but she just retired 5 years ago. So every time I even talk about retirement in any way at all, Lori reminds me, like, dude, come on, man. Like, just stop talking. But in any case, it's been 43 years. Maybe I'll make 50. But there we are. So, we started the semester. We had a good class yesterday. It was fun. A lot of good energy in the room. It feels like, yeah, it just feels like a really good energy. You know, so the enrollments are in the fall. For past couple of years have been a little smaller, so we block off the top 3 rows. And for me, that's a really good thing. It just feels more. I feels a little bit more intimate. It's really strange, but I feel like for people in the classroom, it also feels more intimate. There's something about having those extra bodies in the room that changes the dynamics. So I don't know, it feels like we're going to have a really, really good semester. And then next semester we'll be back up to the 800 numbers. So anyway, that's where we're at. And tomorrow we have a I think it's going to be a really good class. I'm going to talk to students about their kind of personal politics. It's always really nice to start the semester out with a conversation about how students are thinking about the world politically, and most of them are not, of course, but because they're students, and that's not what you do. But it's yeah, be really. I read an op-ed in the New York Times that just really got me thinking about. It's about how students are choosing their colleges and their friends and their partners and their majors and so on. That increasingly, this person was making the argument that they're increasingly students are doing this in whole or at least in large part on their political considerations. And I don't know, I just had a sense that having been speaking to students for so long, I just don't think that that's true across the board, because what happens for me is instead of selecting out a certain number of students, I'm taking random samples of students, and the students who enroll in my class are not more likely to be one way or another, and so it very much is a sampling, and I just don't think that that's what's going on in any significant way. But I'm not going to say that to students. I'm really just going to ask them, um, you know, hey, shut-ins. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate it. Um, you'll appreciate tomorrow's class then. So anyway, the idea is, yeah, let me ask, just put 4 random students up. In particular, it gives me a good opportunity to speak with first semester students. I got a bunch of students in class who are just starting their college career, which is very interesting. It's like how they get here, what are they thinking about, and what are they imagining, this kind of thing. So without, again, as always, without imposing my own thoughts about what I what this person said or what I anticipate they're going to say or whatever. Just let's hear what they have to say and what they think. So yeah, so I'm really, really looking forward to that class. And it seems like we we've past several years we've been starting every semester out with a conversation similar to this. Like we talked about DE&I a couple of years ago and what they think about it, and we talked about um, yeah, I forget what it was last year, but anyway, so that's good. So looking forward to that. So that's tomorrow's class. But today, um, So I get Lord Nader. Yeah, Lord Nader. Um, I I get emails from people a lot, and sometimes sometimes I just don't have time to respond to them because things are just moving really fast, and I can't respond. Sometimes I intend to respond, but then they start going down my inbox, and then I forget. And a lot of times, a month or two later, I'll see the email and I'll say like, "Oh my God, let me just at least apologize for not responding to the email." But sometimes there's just too many, you know. Anyway, and then once in a while I get an email to which I really, really want to respond, but I can't because my any response that I do will be very, very unsatisfying unless it's a long response. And once in a while, I'm just in a certain situation. Maybe I'm just sitting here drinking my coffee or something in the morning, and an email comes in, and I'm not over, yeah, especially busy or I don't know. And I just lay out a response because it's fun for me to think through what I think about something, you know. I mean, once in a while I do a response, and when I get to the end, if it's a longer response, I'm like, oh, okay, that was kind of cool. Let me save that and tuck it away for an idea. Of course, I never go back to my ideas that I say, but I have the intention that maybe I will. But sometimes I would tell people like, hey, I can't respond to this in writing. Just we're gonna have to do a quick Zoom call or something. And then, but the problem when I do that is then a Zoom call ends up being, like a half hour or an hour or something like that. And that it's not a problem for me to have a conversation with a perfect stranger for a half hour, an hour. In fact, I enjoy it. I mean, whatever. But it's just I have certain duties in life, things I really have to get to take care of, and so um, it's really just sucks to have to cut lots of things out that I don't want to cut out. Like so. Even talking to students, I don't have office hours anymore. I used to take Wednesdays, and I would just start at 10 in the morning, and I'd finish at 6 in the evening, 5 or 6. Well, it usually would be 4, but it would just go to 5, and sometimes at 5:30, Lori would be calling on the phone, going like, "Dude, where are you?" Yeah, oh my God, I'm still sitting there with a couple of students. So anyway, I used to enjoy that a lot, and that went on for 2 decades probably. But then I got to the point where I just couldn't even have office hours. I just can't. It's too absolutely too much. So I don't get to talk to students anymore. Um, and except that unless, but again, sometimes people around the world or whatever, I talked to a student recently um, from India, I think. Yeah, she was from India, and she just reached out and had lots of questions about some things. And then I just said, listen, let's just talk. Come on, we'll talk on Zoom. So we did. But sometimes it's really fun to bring people in on the live stream because they ask a question, and I'm like, oh, this would be a good question for the stream. And so that is the case today that I got an email from this guy named Jesse. And so I said, dude, come on the live stream. Let's go. So anyway, Jesse's here. Jeff, you can bring Jesse on. Yo, man, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm rocking it. Hey, what's your last name again?
Hoyt, Hoyt.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Don't
Awesome,
use that
man.
information for nefarious purposes, please.
Yeah. Nefarious. Everything is nefarious, man.
Yeah, yeah,
And bearded people are always nefarious, so
yeah. Always up to no good.
Yeah. Well, that makes life much more interesting.
For sure.
Hey, hey, so listen, man. Anyway, you reached out to me with a a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
What led you, first off, well, say something about yourself, actually.
I don't know. I lived down here in Georgia, and I guess for a long time I spent all my time just like distracting myself, like I said in our email, with stuff that didn't like bring meaning to my life. But I remember that I very much enjoyed like thinking through things and solving problems. So I was like, let me just do that. Let me go learn. And I started learning. I mean, my main thing that I enjoy is learning about philosophy and literature, but you look at these guys and they were all polymaths, which is kind of something I wanted to what's the word looking for? Anyway, it's something I want to be. Like I want to be well learned, well educated.
Aspire to. Yeah.
Yeah. So and my partner is a sociology major. They've graduated. They have the bachelor's in it. And I was like, well, I want to be able to give them a good conversation on it. So, I remembered I've seen lots of your stuff, and I was like, I don't know really where to start or how to sift through things that maybe seem like they have some sort of agenda or bias attached to them. So let me just talk to somebody, reach out to somebody who I respect a lot, and get some insight on where I should head from here.
Uh-huh. And you ended up with me.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a, oh man, first off, let me just say, I really respect, I mean, that what you came to, this idea of like, hey, I just want to take my mind seriously, like go,
Mm-hmm.
like see if I can really, what kind of, in a way, what you're saying is like, I want to put categories together in my mind so
Mm-hmm.
that when new ideas come in, I can plug them in somewhere and be able to examine them more systematically.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I respect that. I think that's really cool.
Thanks.
It's by the way, and also the idea that wait, you're into sci-fi and stuff, right? Were you saying that before we started?
I kind of dabble in like every genre. If it's something's good, I'll read it or consume it, I guess.
Uh-huh. So do you find yourself just picking up lots of random things and reading them or random videos and watching them?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, as far as books go, my partner had a really thoughtful gift where they got me a bunch of like classic novels that I had been talking about. So I've been just like working my way through those. But basically, like if somebody I talk to is like, this is really good, I just add it to my list. I pick it up if I see it, and when I get to it, I get to it.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's cool. I love that. So wait, a polymath is someone who thinks about lots of different things, right?
It's more like is like educated in many different subjects.
Uh-huh.
I
Okay.
think I think in the past it was more a trait of like the nobility or aristocrats. I mean, because they had the resources to be well
Yeah.
educated and such. But
Yeah.
a lot of the early philosophers were like that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like think about that. Like Leonardo da Vinci. I
Hmm.
remember, like I was reading some stuff of his about various inventions, and I'm like, wait, hang on, wasn't he a painter? And like, wait, he was a
Yeah,
sculptor. And like, it was all these,
yeah,
and then there's some
exactly.
building that he designed. So I'm like, oh, he's an architect. I'm like, oh shit, like the guy.
That's exactly like the kind of goal I have in terms of
Yeah,
like just holding knowledge in many areas.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I love that. You know, I always use the term generalist for myself, right?
Hmm.
But I guess polymath could be good. Uh, but yeah, I use generalist in a way, meaning that. But for me, I don't. I'm like I have this idea that I'm not a specialist about anything,
Hmm.
but or I'm not like not a specialist. I'm not an expert on anything, and in
Right.
any way. But I'm just I have a general understanding of many different things, and but well,
Yeah.
listen. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying that's the kind of sort of thing I want. I mean, I've just started this like program for myself. Those were air quotes in case you didn't see them, but where I'm like studying something in earnest. I'm sitting down with a text or at least looking up something about a specific subject. And the overall goal is to be like well versed and able to kind of fit in with any kind of conversation around different topics.
Mm,
And
mm,
just for the sake of like having the context of like having context in general, because I feel like a lot of these different subjects are all definitely in some form or another connected to each other.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. I find sometimes when I'm in a gathering with people, like other academics, not, academics are far less academic than most people on the outside of academia imagine. Well, there's like this kind of, uh, there's a kind of an academic that I'm definitely not, but one that likes the jargon, and they have a specialty area or an area of expertise, and they know all the things that have been written in that area, and they talk like that, and sometimes it's a little snooty, yeah, I would
Hmm.
say, because you're always trying to, you got to prove to other academics that you're smart enough, you're part of the club.
Yeah, like you belong there.
Yeah, I mean it's true with anything, right? But
Hmm.
people who really are into politics or whatever, I don't know. Whatever it is, you're part of a thing that you do, right? If you were in a Game of Thrones like fan club, you better know a lot about the Game of Thrones, and then you got to throw these little intricate factoids out so that
Yeah,
people are like, "Oh, you belong here." Anyway, I don't, when I'm around just average folks like myself, what I'm really so often struck by is how the conversation just goes to so many different places.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, you're talking about trees in one moment and then talking about, you know, wood, textures of wood, like, oh, well, what do
right,
you
right.
think? So yeah, so I'm with you on that. Okay, so listen, I'm going to give you a couple thoughts here.
Okay.
First, um, the one thing that I did because I had a real interest in the world, just globally, like the globe and the planet and nations. The one thing I did was read one of the big newspapers every day for quite a while, and I didn't read like cover to cover. This was back in the day when I had it delivered to my house, but I
Hmm.
did the New York Times, and then I would switch off. Sometimes it would be the Christian Science Monitor, which mostly I don't think is even, I don't know if it's published anymore, but it was really really a good newspaper, and for especially for international news. And then I would sometimes be the Wall Street Journal, and but every day, and I would always read about nations. Usually, if there's an article about some country, something that's going on in a country like Sri Lanka or Tanzania
Right,
or where, it's going to be an art. It's going to be a story that goes on for several days, right? I did that for many years, and that just helped me to understand the world and just things that were happening. And it also helped me to understand history because always when you're looking at stuff like that, you have to pick out, it's going to take you to certain historical events, right? And now it's a lot
right,
easier because you could just hop on your phone or your computer or whatever and look something up. But
right.
anyway, that's one thing that I did to help me a lot. Um, but you sound like you're interested in obviously uh, lots and lots of different things.
I mean, yeah, I think by nature I'm just pretty curious, and I feel like I can find like enjoyment out of learning basically anything. I mean, I got a little zealous when I like first realized that's what I wanted to do, and I started learning like relearning algebra because I was bad at it in high school, and then learning about science and things like that. So I don't know. Basically, anything I feel like if I choose to engage in it, I can engage in it and
That's,
enjoy it.
dude, awesome, man. No, it sounds like you're already well down the path. So you're asking me a question specifically about sociology.
Right.
And okay, so now let me give you a different answer. A, uh, it's really important. So sociology, the field emerged around social problems. So the
Hmm.
field emerged in the late 18th century, but really the 19th century, around the social problems that people were seeing as human beings migrated to urban areas and started living together. And all of a sudden it was really evident what problems were emerging, right? Because when
Right.
you're isolated in rural areas, like you don't know what's going on, right? It's things are happening, but they're happening sort of in very isolated or individualized cases, you know. But once cities started to emerge and industrialization started to happen, people were able to really identify the ways in which human beings created a series of social problems. So the whole field was organized around that, which means that it's naturally a kind of a left field as we talk about, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because you got to solve the problem by doing something at the level of all of the people. You don't solve the problem by getting each individual to change what they're doing. You're trying to solve a social problem, a societal problem. And that is what we generally classify as kind of a leftist thing, meaning like a big government or somebody with authority, whatever, coming in and saying, okay, we're going to demand that everybody in the population does X or does Y, you know. And we're
Hmm.
going to take tax money and we're going to spend it on whatever we need to do to fix this larger problem that everybody faces. So that's how sociology gets turned into a leftist or a progressive field of study, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I
So like
definitely get that.
homeless. Go ahead, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say I get that, and that's it. I understand that.
Yeah, you see it, right? Whenever you talk to
Yeah.
sociologists, they're mostly on the left in a way. But I mean, it's like homelessness, right? Like I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, yeah, I was just out in LA and I'm like, all right, well, I got this guy and that guy. I mean, we passed this guy in the street and his pants are down and he's like playing. It's just, I'm like, oh, dude. So like you got okay. So we can take each one of those individuals and be like, all right, let's deal with this problem of homelessness by starting with each person one at a time. But the
Hmm.
sociologist doesn't think like that. The sociologist says we have a homelessness problem. Right.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, I don't know, is it a problem? I don't know. And LA County has like 100,000 homeless people. So, but is that a problem? Well, yeah, it creates a problem, right? So that people don't like it. So now we have to fix the larger problems, means we have to step in and do something that's going to shape the behavior of large groups of people. And then people turn around and be like, wait, I don't want my city government telling me what to do. I'm like, well, you're going to fix homelessness. We're going to have to do
Right.
something, right? So, so that's just that's what people don't understand about, I think, about sociology or how we're not really, it's not that we're left, it's just that we're trying to fix structural problems, you know.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense, and I've kind of thought a similar thing. I'm not, at least anymore, not particularly beholden to uh, left right kind of
Hmm.
thinking, just because at large I find disingenuity
Yeah. Disingenuous.
everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a cool word. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Got it.
So I'm just trying to I'm trying to sift out the dogmatic beliefs that
Yeah.
doesn't leave room for discussion.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Okay. Okay. All right. So with that in mind, then that leads me to my next thought, which is, well, to begin by recognizing how what the problem solving. So sociology is about solving these social problems, right? It emerges for that reason. Not just that. We want to analyze problems, but in the end, we want to analyze society. And we tend to focus on problems a lot. And then once you focus on them, then you search for a solution, and the solution is always group based. Once you recognize that, and that's not the same thing as being a liberal leftist, because
Yeah,
the liberal left idea is like, oh, homelessness is a problem, we got to fix it and do whatever. Like, well, yeah, but wait, why is it a problem though? Like, let's break down the degree to which it's a problem and what's the cause anyway, you know? So, so once you start there, then that gives you like the foundation to take a step back from being ideologically committed to the left or right or center or whatever, and just to analyze what the issue is. And then you're
yeah,
beginning your sociological analysis. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's like one of the main reasons I chose you to reach out to is because, well, I would see how you would interact with the students and how you would approach a problem. And, I have the knee jerk reaction, and I see, oh, if we're going towards some like major opinion that's going to be, set down, but you never do that, almost never. And you, your utilization of the Socratic approach when talking to these people is fantastic. And I can tell that, well, first of all, you're making me think, but you're also, I'm sure, making everybody else in that classroom think,
Mhm.
which I find very, admirable and makes me feel, I guess, hopeful. I don't know if that's the right word, but to
Yeah.
see that kind of discourse.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Okay, but and it sounds like you're doing that in your own analysis of the world, and then you want to do that in your own life with the sociologists around you. The
Mm-hmm.
key is the key is to always, and this has been hard for me. This has been like a really hard fought discovery, right? The key is to not get caught up uh, in here. The key is to get caught up in understanding that to change people's behavior, the way to change the behavior of large numbers of people, which is, when we see it's a problem, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
homelessness, let's say, right? Or I don't know, any number of things. First off, it's never inherently a problem. Nothing is, right? I mean,
Right.
but uh, but the way to, let me see what I'm trying to say here. Here, um, when I feel dogmatic about something, I always stop and I say, "Whoa, hang on, turn that around and see it from the other direction." And I'm going to give you an example. Recently,
Mm-hmm.
Trump has we scaled back our war games and our support of South Korea and South Korea in particular, but also Japan and to in as a response to China and as a response to North Korea. So,
Mm-hmm.
we have huge base in South Korea, south of Seoul. We have several bases, but we train with the South Korean military. They send soldiers here. We have I don't know how many troops there, 30,000 or something like that. But the idea is to protect South Korea from North Korea and ultimately, from China, right? So this has been going on since the Korean War, right? Now,
Right.
so Trump comes along and says, you know, and we don't let them. We never allowed them to have nuclear missiles, nuclear weapons. We don't, even nuclear power is like suspect. But we're like, we got you under control. We'll take care of it, right? So we do these trainings. It's like, listen, North Korea is never going to invade because you're going to invade basically the United States if you do
Yeah.
that. It's never going to happen, right? So Trump comes along, and now he's pissed at North Korea because they wouldn't support him in Iran in the Iran war, and he's like, ah, f off, man. Like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to scale back these war games, and we're going to scale back support for you, and uh, and I'm like, wait, what? And he said, yeah, because my good friend Kim Jong-un, who's, the grandson of the founder of North Korea. It's like, he doesn't wish any harm on you. And he's a good guy and he's my good friend. Trump met with him a couple of times.
Yeah.
You remember that,
I
right?
do remember that.
Okay. So you know this story. Have you followed this with Trump
I haven't
past couple
followed
weeks?
a lot of news at all.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay,
so I've been
okay.
more focused on this stuff, but
All right. Okay. So I read this and I'm like, holy hell. Like, dude, seriously? Like you're now friends with Kim Jong-un and now you're throwing the Koreans under the bus in this way? Like we're gonna like withdraw some support from you and one thing after another. And I'm like, oh shit, like come on, man. Like yeah, I don't know he's just going all in like this. Like, dude,
yeah.
what the hell, man? Like, I'm just like, this is crazy that you're like saying North Korean communists are their fealty to me, Donald Trump, and the United States is more important than South Korea, right? Like the
Right. Right.
Chinese is more important than South Korea. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Right? Like, this is like
Hmm.
unthinkable, unthinkable. There's nobody could in the past 40 years could ever imagine we'd have a president in power who would do this, right?
Right.
And then I'm like, so I'm going, oh man, this is so I'm like my blood pressure goes up. This is
Hmm.
crazy, right? And then I read this, so I'm reading, right? I'm reading this over a sort course of many days, and I'm like, oh, South Korea's the foreign minister in China and some high level delegations coming down to Seoul to have some talks, right? Oh, now I'm thinking at the same time, well, we need to de-escalate war. Like, I mean, it's not inherently a problem. Like, what are you having war games for? Like, what we need is actually to get rid of all the weapons, including the nuclear weapons, right? Stop
Hmm.
having war games and promoting war and violence. You know what I mean? Why don't we just have a truce? Because we have a truce with South Korea and North Korea have a truce, but it's like the war is still there, right? It's just sort of anyway. So.
Sorry about that. I can't quite get that right now.
Yeah, that's all right. Don't worry about it. So he says, so I'm like, wait, they're going to meet with China and they're going to talk about, they're going to have to rethink some of this stuff with, with North Korea, and then they're going to bring Japan in. And I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. Shit, Trump, because he got his panties in a bunch, as we would say, because the Koreans wouldn't support him in Iran, right?
Right.
he's he might force a conversation that would never get forced. And like, oh my God, maybe, maybe, ironically, this could lead toward a peace process that like we can be
Right.
done. You know what I mean? Like instead of just keep wrapping it up with war. And now this is not what Trump had in mind. It would be an accident of fate, of course, right? He's not thinking this. He's just pissed that they wouldn't support him in Iran. And
Right.
and I'm like, so in my sociological mind is saying, God, I know about the weird idiosyncratic things about history. And I was like, fuck, wouldn't that be ironic? Wouldn't it be ironic that Donald Trump brings peace to the Korean Peninsula
Yeah.
by claiming to be the good friend of Kim Jong-un and so on and so forth and da 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 da, right? Okay, that's sociological thinking right there.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And I like that approach a lot. I think it leaves room. I think it makes you like freer in terms of like coming up with the ideas and like actually looking at things. And I just think it's a good approach. I think it's an approach that I would like to try and take every time I run into something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It does make you free, right? It makes you free to come up with a really innovative question,
Hmm.
an innovative solution to various understandings of things. Yeah. Well, I guess, right? It's like having, well, you said you've always been a really curious person.
Yeah.
So that's the foundation. See me, I spent like probably 15 years being really pissed at when I discovered the world wasn't what I thought it was, and I was really
Yeah.
pissed. And then I wanted it to be a certain way. And then I didn't, I really, that got in the way of my sociological analysis, which was kind of a problem for me. I was much less thoughtful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely had a lot of time where you kind of just forget that you were curious at one point. Things just kind of get in the way or make you feel a certain way, and you almost have to like rediscover it.
Mm.
I mean, I had a pretty rough time of it from like middle school to high school, and I think that's where I lost a lot of myself.
Mm.
And then that led into my 20s, and I'm just now being like, I remember who I was and what matters to me.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. And why do you think it matters to be a good like a good thinker?
Oh,
Why does it matter to you? Why does it matter to you to be a thoughtful thinker? Let me put it that way.
well, I mean, at least part of it is like I like it. Like that's a huge part of it. But I also think that it's almost with all this information available to you, while it is hard to parse through it all, it's kind of, I find it almost a duty that if you are capable of learning and using that learning to be a better person, that, it's your duty as a human who interacts with other humans to do it. Right?
Mm,
The more well-rounded I am in sociology, in philosophy, in all these other things, right? They make life easier to understand and cope with, in my opinion,
yeah.
but also to interact with other people. And, we start to learn that we are just on an individual basis people who are interacting with people.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think, thinking about this stuff is important,
Yeah.
right? Or we end up with very like dogmatic and, split beliefs without any ability to find a middle ground, or
Mm,
at least even proper understanding of another person's
hmm.
view.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I got you. I'm with you on that. I would say the exact same thing. I think that's cool. And then the further you get into it, of course, the more complex it is and the more
Oh yeah,
distressing life is, man. Like
yeah,
I thought I was gonna have some answers by this time. Like
yeah, yeah. I thought I had it figured out for a little bit, but
yeah.
it's very complex. But I think the puzzle is fun to do.
Yeah, right now I'm like really I've been for the past maybe couple of years I've been really digging into China a lot.
Yeah.
And first off, I'm not a Chinese scholar, so like, I've been doing it for a long time. I mean, I started studying China just sort of informally
Hmm.
back in my mid 20s because it was just a thing. I was studying political development around the world, so of course you gotta hit China. But man, I read one person who's this expert and they say this and I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. Okay, yeah, I got it. Yeah. And then I read this other person and they start going down here. Da, da, da. I'm like, oh, this is so smart. This person's got it. And then they say the exact opposite of what this person said, and I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa. Oh my God. And like, somewhere is a truth, but I don't have
Yeah.
enough time in my life to get to it, but
Yeah. I
but I'm
get that.
smart, but I'm smart enough to know not to just grab one person and go with it. Like I've made that
Right.
mistake too many times. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I get that too. I think I was kind of shocked because I guess when I was like getting started in philosophy after I read The Stranger in high school, I was reading about Nietzsche, trying to
Hmm.
understand him, getting a general view of him,
Hmm.
and then in more recently, I started reading Dostoevsky,
Uh-huh. Cool.
and they have radically different views on the world. I was like, I don't know what to do with all this right now.
Yeah, no,
So
you just have fun with it. Just put it in a little file in your brain.
yeah,
And
that's kind of what I've been doing with the. I got a journal right here that
that's
I'm just
cool.
like, all right, I'm gonna take a thought and I'm gonna run with it and note down every little thing I think about it and just try and figure it out.
Yeah, that's
But if I
cool.
can't figure it out, it's okay.
Yeah, no, you know because you come back to it 5 years from now or 10 years from
Hmm.
now, and if you remain pretty systematic, and you don't have to have an academic career. I mean, I have an academic career, so it's just a thing that I do for a living. But man, I meet so many great thinkers who don't have an academic career, and they just have other people around them with whom they think about this stuff. Now, a lot of people don't like to think about it. So then you're kind of gotta but that's the good thing about the web, right? You can find people
Hmm.
who are really interested and engage, you know. Um,
Right.
I had So wait, have you read the Brothers Karamazov?
No, so that's like I haven't gotten to that yet. I started it, but I had started it when I just started reading again. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And I put it to a shelf. It's on my shelf. I'm going to be getting to it in the next couple months, optimistically. But I read, I think the last thing I remember was that story about if it was God who was cursing us by giving us free will. That was, I mean, that's what sticks out of my brain. That's the last
Yeah,
thing I like
that's
really
the
remember.
no, that's the Grand Inquisitor. That's you're
Yeah.
right.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's the story inside of the Brothers Karamazov.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh God.
I remember that. And it was blowing my mind when I was reading it. I was like, this is
That's so cool.
insane.
Dude, that's cool, man. Okay, that's cool. That's one of my absolute favorite conversations in all of literature. Uh, I had a professor, my mentor, who said that, he thought the Brothers Karamazov was the greatest literary story in human history, right? Well, okay, that doesn't mean it is, but that was his thing. He was
Yeah.
Lebanese and Arab Lebanese theorist, right? Historian theorist. Um, anyway, that prompted me to read it, but it took me probably 6 years to actually get to it. And
Yeah.
man, but that story, the Grand Inquisitor, yeah,
It's something.
man, that's so cool. This is
I'm
such a
excited to read it, to start it again because I'm like, I get to read that again and think about it again and write down in my notebook, you know?
There's another story inside of there where a child is torn apart by wolves, right? And then it's
Mhm.
a similar kind of story, like they have to somehow just. So Dostoevsky has the characters having to justify evil in that way, right? It's equally as potent, man. When I was in St. Petersburg a few years back, we went to Dostoevsky's uh, apartment or house
Oh,
or
wow.
whatever. So I like walked through and saw his writing desk where he wrote those novels. It's like just a simple desk. It's
Yeah.
like, oh man, oh my God. Yeah, that was kind of cool. But okay, that's cool, man. Good for you. That's like that's awesome. I really, I'm really, I love this. I love that you're diving in.
Yeah, it's been really good. It's just I didn't quite, I feel like I don't have the foundation because I didn't go to like a 4 year college. Like my degree's in culinary arts. But doing my best to get, I guess, a college level education on certain
Well,
things.
okay, so here's what I would tell you. If you did a four-year college, so much of it wouldn't be spent doing any of the kind of thinking that you're most interested in doing. Okay.
Hmm.
For me, the reason I was able to really do the kind of thinking that I enjoy, that you enjoy, that we're talking about, is only because I spent 9 years being paid really poor wages as a graduate student. I mean, like the most I ever made was $11,000 as a graduate student to teach and to study and read and write and do all the stuff, but I had lots and lots of time to just read. But I knew I wasn't going to make any more money than that. I couldn't take a second job, so that's how much money I made. It paid the rent, it gave me food, etc. But it meant that I invested all that. I had so much time that I could do nothing else but just invested in doing exactly what you're talking about, like always having
Right.
a stack of books and stuff, right? So now, had I not done that, then it would have been really difficult for me to find the time to do what it is that you're talking about, right? Like
Right.
you got the books and you get to them. So the thing that just is will get in your way is you'll just get distracted by life, which is fine. Like, culinary, whatever it is that you do, you got to bring money in. And so um, it's just not necessarily having enough time. And I had a motivation to just keep going because I knew I had the idea that I would probably be a professor. And so I needed to invest in that way. Uh,
Hmm.
but if you don't have the idea that you're going to be a professor, then you have to have a lot of self-motivation. Like you really have to be like, I need to do this for me because it's really, I need to understand the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, this is a weird statement, but I'm very fortunate that I'm currently on dialysis, so
mhm.
I do have a lot of time to do this kind of stuff.
Dude, cool, man. Yo, very cool. Yeah. There it is. That's the flip side of that, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah, well, go for it then. Just stay with it. By the way, the one idea that has been pivotal for me to understand the world is free will and determinism. Like seeing,
That's a big one.
understanding, yeah, understanding the ways in which those two things are fused together. That to me, I've never, once I discovered that, once I first started breaking those down, that was 40, almost 45 years ago. It is I've only made the way those two things are come together, I've only made it more complex in the way they're fused. So hold that, like hold that. That's really, really important to think like a sociologist. Free will and determinism. Yeah.
So I mean, free will, determinism is sort of like your future is almost, I mean, predetermined
Well,
in a
it's
way.
shaped. You can call it a lot. People call it different things, but it's shaped. It's determined by things outside of your control, right?
Okay.
So, like for example, your journey is being shaped by the fact that you're all of the pieces of your history, but also the fact that you're on dialysis, right? So that shapes who you
Yeah.
are. It shapes a lot of things, and then you have your free will, the decisions you make that come out of you. But like the decisions you make are based on the structure around you, right?
Right.
And then they give rise to the ability to have new ideas on your own. And then it's just this complex matrix, right?
Okay,
And
that's interesting.
but the idea is like, wait, you had an idea. Did that come from within you or did it come from something outside of you? Well, it's both, but how?
Right.
So that's the essence of sociology. Yeah. It's the core thing.
All right, that makes sense. And I think that's a really good, like, talking about the fusion of free will and determinism. I think kind of makes it a really awesome uh, thing to explore because it's so entwined with philosophy, which is my main squeeze. So I think I think that just makes me more excited to get into it and really like because one of my questions was let me open the book here. It's talking about the data. I was saying, how is this data from a sociological perspective? How I take it from a sociological perspective and then make it coherent within the larger context of philosophy, logic, and existence at large.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even starting the conversation or starting that, posing that idea sort of answers that for me
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
itself.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, dude, yeah, you're asking all you're asking the cool questions. You're asking the questions that can't be answered. And mind you, the other thing my professor told me way back in the day is not all questions have to be answered. It's enough just to ask the questions.
Hmm.
The question will lead to other questions that eventually will lead to some kind of response. And
Right.
I just
yeah.
remembered back in the early Obama administration, he did a speech in which he essentially told a bunch of workers that they didn't do the work on their own, and
Oh,
the idea was to honor the people who were in unions that got their rights to be a union culture and
Uh,
state or whatever,
yeah.
and people on the right heard it in a way in which they were like, what do you mean I didn't do the work? Who do you think is out shoveling the stone that's making your roads? Like, it was me. I was the one who did the hours. But really, it's both. Like,
Yeah.
yes, you are the one who is out shoveling or doing the thing or running the construction stuff, but also there's a lot of reasons why you're in that position in the first place that you have no control over. So
yeah.
having both of those in mind is super important.
Oh, dude, that's cool, man. So he was thinking like a sociologist.
He was
And
thinking, he was trying to pull up the other side. I think
yeah,
Obama missed the fact that he needed to really emphasize both being important, and he just
yeah,
emphasized the community aspect, which is the opposite
yeah.
of what the American culture mostly promotes, which is the individualistic component.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's a good example.
I remember that, and I've changed my opinion on it since I heard it. I was younger when I heard it,
Same.
but I remember hearing you didn't build it, and I was like, absolutely not. That's not. But I've gotten older, and we all know no man is an island.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what we miss, right? That so, for example, a lot of people feel like, oh, I made this decision on my own, and I decided to do this, and I decided to do that, and it was all me. And I'm like, wait a minute, nothing's all you, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Your whole history, where you were born, who you were born with, who you met, da 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 da, da, it's all part of that, man. It's all the nature of your mind, your temperament. I mean, there's so many things that it's all connected, so and yeah, man, so it's hard for me sometimes. There are a lot of things the other side about the way I teach the class the way I do is because I don't have to make some kind of statements about things that I know
hmm
I can't explain well enough. And so
yeah,
it's
I
like,
get that.
okay, I'll just let my students talk.
Either way, it's a very good approach, and one I'm trying to bring into my own rhetoric when I'm
Yeah.
talking with people that have a different view than me. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, we can't argue. I can't argue with you if I can't understand what you're trying to say, and
Yeah.
what layers are beneath just the statement that you're saying.
Well, and here's another thing though, right? Um, a lot of times people don't know what's behind what they're saying. And
hmm
they don't know all the assumptions of what's behind what they're saying. And, if you're not thinking, if you haven't excavated all of the assumptions, then you can't even articulate what they are. And then you're trying to have a discussion with someone who thinks very differently than you, but you're trying to have a discussion based on assumptions and not based on what's behind them. And so then what are you really talking about in a certain sense, right? So
Yeah,
that's like that would be like Obama in that speech. Like he's making these assumptions that are really because Obama was actually uh he was quite focused on in the kind of in the classic liberal thinking, which is like, hey, uh be responsible for yourself and take responsibility. And when you do X or do Y, recognize your own personal role in it. So
right.
people painted Obama like this socialist kind of guy, but he wasn't like that at all. And so, I mean, he had obviously there were certain policies, but but mostly it wasn't that. So like he just missed. But I do the same thing when I'm trying to explain something sometime, and I just miss it in class, and I'm like, I get
Yeah.
it. It can come off well. Yeah. So anyway, hey, listen, man. Um, um, uh, I, it's good talking to you, by the way.
It's good talking to you.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck.
Thanks. I'm gonna do my best.
Yeah, yeah. Just recognize, just stay at it, man. I don't have any particular sociological book or anything like that. I wish I did, but I think mostly, yeah. I think just really, um, I do have a book chapter. I wrote this book. Um, there are a couple chapters in it that would be good for you. Uh,
Mhm.
um, they were just more like essays that I was putting together, and I used it in class. So let me see if I can find a copy of it. I'll. I mean, I have the chapters. I have PDFs of them. If I can find those,
Okay,
I had
fantastic. I
actually.
mean, that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, the main my first my main book that I wrote that that never got published and that's what led me to pursue the path that I pursued. Uh, that I had I thought I had it on my drive, and it was the book I wrote out of my dissertation, and I spent so many years, and sum total it was like 11 years working on this project, right? And I had one copy I found a copy in my office, a paper copy. And I was cleaning out my office last December, and I threw it in the dumpster. I threw most everything in the dumpster, threw it out because they were tearing the building down and I had to get rid of everything. And then I came home and someone asked to look at something. To look at part of it, so I went and I looked at the files that I had somewhere on my computer, and they were corrupted. And I'm like, oh
Oh,
shit. Well, luckily I have a copy downstairs. And I went downstairs
okay.
and I got the box out. It's like 500 pages. And it wasn't that at all. It was something else. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a copy of this. Like I don't have this book that I worked on for 11 years is gone.
Oh, oh, that's rough.
Yeah, well, I laughed about it because I couldn't do anything but laugh, but I didn't really.
Yeah.
We were like, Lori and I were laughing. Then we drank a beer to it. We toasted to the fact that it died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Celebration of its life.
Yeah, well, Karl Marx said, all that is solid melts into air. And that's no, hey Matt, I know I wrote I wrote it on WordPerfect, which was a word processing platform that came out probably about the time you were born. And yeah, and then I converted it to Word, and then somehow it got corrupted. So anyway, that's life.
That is life.
Yeah, God. All right, bro. Listen, man. Really good chatting with you. It's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks again for having me and answering my questions. I
Yeah.
really appreciate this kind of conversation.
Yeah, very cool. You're more than welcome, man. And enjoy the journey. Yeah.
I most certainly will.
All right, man. Yeah, take care. We'll talk to you.
All right.
All right.
See you later.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Dang, man. 1989. Yeah. Yeah, it was on iCloud. Well, it wasn't on iCloud, but it was being backed up on Dropbox. Yeah. Yeah, it's so crazy. Like it's just so like um I don't know, so such a wild thought, like to have something you worked on for 11 years, man. 11 years I worked on that, and boom, it's gone. Never.
My semester, we had for our first exam, 2 articles that you and Lori had written as the material that we had to read for class. I don't know. It was a long time ago, so I don't exactly remember what they were about, but I do remember that the first 2 articles were both you and Lori's writing. So I don't know where it came from, or
That
not
was
from.
that was the book that I'm talking about. I like that if I can find the chapters, but I think they might be gone. If I find them, I'll send them to Jesse. But it's yeah, I harangued them. I
We should ask Penn State if they could find it through. I mean, it was on the cms.psu.edu. If you remember CMS, well, you probably do.
no,
but-
I'm sure I have them some. Hang on, I'm gonna look right now. Hang on, I'll see if I have them. That's crazy. I mean, after a while, I think I got to the place where like, well, nobody reads anymore, so whatever. Um, it doesn't seem like it really is gonna matter. All right, Sam already shared
Audiobook, man.
letters, personal Roshi. No, it's not there, not there. Huh. Yeah, Lori and we've got this book that we had that's Become an Eternal book that is. Wait, hang on, man. Sam, Social 19 files. Man, I don't even see. Oh, wait, here it is, writing. Maybe it's in there. Sam's writing. Okay, hang on. Book chapters.
We're making it somewhere. We're going.
Oh yeah, wait, I think I got something here. But not that book. That book is definitively gone, man. Oh man. Yeah, it was a weird feeling, honestly, that yeah, it was a weird feeling. I don't know. It felt like, oh God, I felt like an immediate emptiness, you know what I mean? Just so much time in one's life. But then at the same time, I'm at this stage in my life when I'm trying to get rid of certain things so that yeah, just so that I don't suddenly die and somebody else has to clean up my mess, you know? So so things like that are, it's kind of nice, and to just have a little like mini inner funeral toward it or something. Attended the first Metallica show in 1989. Oh man, that's cool. 89.
I wasn't even thought as an idea, as a concept in 1989.
Oh man, 1989 was a good year. I spent most of 1989 in South America. And man, that's where I really came of age. I think it's where I really, really, like, when you go off like that, like, I go off and I went off to do my field research, and you're really kind of on your own, and I was either going to do it or I wasn't going to do it. It was in another language. It was all in I mean, I was speaking Spanish, but I really was on my own. I had to pull it off, and my whole career, all the time that I spent studying in graduate school, all came down to whether I could collect data, I could have these observations that were worth having, and then I could write them down in such a way that my committee would say, like, okay, this is worthy of a PhD, a doctoral degree, and there was a kind of a certain amount of pressure that well, I mean, I didn't feel. I think that I think in a yeah, I don't know. I can't even put it into words, but it's for sure is where I came of age. To be able to go to a completely different country and spend all that time with strangers and so many different people, and in the mountains in Ecuador, like with the Quechua people, and then yeah, it was really, man, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Sweep the floor and take out the trash. I know, like when you like Carol Burnett, the Carol Burnett show back in the day, that she would like take a broom across the floor and turn the lights off. That's how I am sometimes in class, right? I'm the last one out of the room, and I walk up the stairs and it's an empty room, and I'm just by myself, and I always turn around and I look and I see the empty room, and I hit the lights and I walk out. And someday I'll do that for the last time. And I may know it's the last time, and I may not know it's the last time. That's what's really eerie about it. Yeah. Kind of. Yeah. The Bohemian Grove. Yeah. Huh. Anyway, listen, man. Are there any other questions that people have? If those of you who know Irvin, by the way, who remember Irvin Moore, who comes to class every semester, although he wasn't in class last semester, the guy with the big dogs, and who had been incarcerated for 5 decades. Anyway, Irvin turned 80 a couple of weeks ago, and we're having a big party for him. Oh wait, hang on. This is my wife here. Hang on one second now. Hang on one second.
While you do that,
All right, all right.
Ray,
All right, Joe.
Ray,
Oh my God, that is so funny. I'm just talking about Irvin right now. I get a call from my wife who's down. We're having a big gathering. It's just like an open house party for him. And oh, that's so funny. And I see the phone. It's Lori who's down there. She and a friend, uh, friend of Irvin. And they organized a gathering, and Lori calls me. She's like, "Man, Irvin's not here. Like, what's going on?" And so I'm just saying it. I'm just talking about Irvin turning 80. We're having this big party for him. And anyway, he's not there. She's like, "Dude, where is he?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." Okay. Anyway,
probably talking to
anything
somebody on
about
campus.
yeah, I don't know where he is. Yeah, who knows? But he'll be there soon enough. Anyway, the idea, he is a really interesting person. And and what's so interesting about it, like when you watch the video of him, and he'll be in class again this semester, you just see he's got this really big personality. And when he was incarcerated at the two different institutions where he was, one was Graterford prison down by Philly, and the other was Rockview, which is up here, which is where we met him. Everyone in the prison knew him, you know what I mean? Well, he became an old head at some point. Old head, you say, the guys who've been around for a long time. And then, what happens in prisons, if you don't know about prisons, the only way that prisons can operate is if the prisoners have a great deal of control. Because if they don't have control, if they're not holding things down on their own, then things fall apart, right? So, you don't want all prisoners to be in control because some are out of control. So what you need is for the old heads in particular, for whom that place is their home, like especially people who are lifers, because there's in Pennsylvania, life means life. You're never going to go home unless the governor gives you a commutation. Then that means they have to see this as their home. Like this is it, man. They're in this, and that means that when the young guys, when people break rules, then it screws things up for everybody. So when there's like a big fight somewhere, then there's going to be a lockdown, and then you're stuck inside your cell, and like, oh man, I don't, otherwise the cells are open. People come and go. There's a lot of freedom and movement in certain areas. So, like some wings or areas of prison, there's really serious lockdown, like maybe the most violent offender, oftentimes the younger people. But the more time you spend in there, the more you just come to realize, look, who am I fighting against, man? When I fight, when I break rules, I'm only hurting myself. It's like I gotta live. So let me just like chill out. And so the administration and the COs, the corrections officers, they really rely on a lot of the old heads to keep the peace, man, and make sure that here we got this guy over here, we're having problems with him. He's just breaking all the rules, and it's just going to create problems. Can you two guys talk to him? So you need that. You need the buy-in of all of these people who are incarcerated. And people don't have a sense of that. You can't just keep people locked inside of cells for 20 hours a day. It doesn't work that way. And people need to work, and then they need to get out. They need to work. You need the incarcerated individuals, prisoners, i.e., to do the jobs at the prison. It's a very complex place, as you can only imagine, right? So anyway, Irvin, everybody knew Irvin. Like he's just like the guy, you just knew him, right? And so especially the young guys coming through and lots of other people, and he was very much like a man for the past 20 years, and the last 20 years he was always counseling other people and always helping them and getting them through, and you know and that's a good thing for them, because especially people who are going to leave, you want that, and you don't want high recidivism. It can't just be punishment, 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 because then when people leave, they're going to engage in the same behaviors that they engaged in when they were in there, and then then other people on the outside are going to get hurt, and then they're going to come back. And so that's what people don't understand about prison, as who saying like, it's just too easy, and it's just like, you need to punish them. It's like, no, you need to transform them. That's why it's important to have schooling available, and to have courses, and to have different things, right? Job training, all sorts of things that counseling, like the stuff that you can help. Now I'm thinking like a sociologist. This isn't a liberal thing, right? This is conservative. You don't, if you got a person who's committed violent crimes, they already know it's wrong, you know what I mean? So you put them in prison for 10 years and be like, all right, we're going to let you out now. Like, well, they know it was wrong that got them in there, whatever they did that got them in there. And unless they're completely mentally ill and psychotic, they get that. And so now they're going to go back out. You want them to stay out. You want them to not do anything wrong and violent and that sort of thing. So what do you got to do while they're in there to help ensure that they're not going to return once they get released? That's the key. That's the question you always want to have. It's not like, well, we want them to have it easy, like give them television and give them this and give them that. Like it's not that, like, oh, if this is terrible to punish them. Oh, it's inhumane to punish them. No, it's not about being inhumane. It's about, you punish to a certain degree, but actually you want to make sure they don't come back. That's the key, man. So that's actually just reasonable and thoughtful. Anyway, everybody knew Urban, right? So, and even now, like so many CEOs and stuff, they see Urban because people live in the community. They see Urban on the outside, like, oh my God, Mr. Moore, because he's a friend of everyone. Anyway, so we're having a gathering for him. That's like kind of an open house, a 3-hour open house, and he knows he's been out for, I don't know how long, 4 years, 5 years, 5 years maybe, and they're just like, so many people know him. It's just like, oh my God, it's a small town, but nonetheless everybody knows him. So anyway, that's where we're at. So, uh, so Lori was saying, like, hey,
You probably got to head over there pretty soon.
yeah. Soon. Yeah. Luckily, I don't have to go round up Irving. Yeah.
Go find him.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it, man. That's where we're at. That's life. Yeah. It's interesting though, right? To think about something like that. Like prison and incarceration, and once somebody's in prison, incarcerated, the only thing that's on your mind is they're going to get out. If they're going to get out, unless it's forever, if they're locked up forever, never going to get out. But if they're going to get out, the one thing that's on the mind of the administration, that should be on the mind, I want them to be thinking about this question: what do we have to do to increase the likelihood that they will leave and never come back? That's the biggest question. I don't want it's not about inhumanity. It's not about what's, the being kind. It's not about, whatever it is, right? The question, the sociological question is, what do you got to do to ensure, to make it most likely that, to increase the likelihood that they will never return to prison once they get out? That's the question. And the answers that people come up with, there may be things that on the outside you might immediately think, wait a minute, wait, why should they be allowed to have that? And why should we spend money on this or that? Because that feels like that just seems like a really bad idea. Well, maybe because we spend money on education for people, because what we found is that, well, when people get their degrees, the likelihood of returning decreases to like down here, really low, right? And or whatever it is. So we're going to spend money on that because that makes sense. And you know, as opposed to, yeah, we're just going to fucking stick people in a cell for 23 hours a day and not give them television or any, whatever it is. It's like, well, that tends not to work, man. Yeah. Yeah, you got personality disorders, you have like all sorts of things that are going on, which means like, well, this is like homeless people, you know, in LA. I mean, you either if you don't already have some kind of mental illness that brought you to the streets in the first place, after a few days on the streets, man, your mind, you start to get loopy, and then, you know, it's gonna kick in. So yeah, and there is a segment of inmates that should never be released ever, ever, ever under any circumstances. People like Irvin would be the very first people to say that. Like that guy right there, don't ever let him out, man. Like, and that's what it is, right? So but that's the reality. But the fact is, most people who go to prison are going to get released. That's they've not committed some kind of capital crime in a state where they will never get out. They're going to get out, and so now you gotta operate with that in mind. And like, all right, once they're out, what are we going to do? Because then they're, you know, I mean, well, a lot of people aren't violent. They might, you know, commit bank fraud or whatever, which, you know, could lead to all sorts of detrimental consequences for people. But you know, that's the thing that matters most is like, okay, what do we got to do? You know.
Do you remember the book that changed Irvin's life in prison? The first book, I should say.
Yeah, Man's Search for Meaning, right? Viktor Frankl.
Yes, sir.
I was at his place a couple of weeks ago and I picked it. He had it sitting there. I was looking at it. Yeah. Yeah, that was his entry point in. Yeah. Fuck yeah.
It's on my physical bookshelf. I haven't gotten to it yet, but
Wait, you haven't gotten to it yet?
I haven't. Dude, I'm in my space sci-fi books right now. I don't know why.
Oh, dude, yeah, you're locked up in sci-fi. Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of philosophy books and whatnot. I added the Brothers book that you talked about. That had what was it called?
The Brothers Karamazov.
Yes, I added that to my list.
Inquisitor. Yeah.
And I have a bunch of other books from philosophers like that. But every time I sit down to read them, I'm just like, I don't know if I'm in the mental space, but living on Mars, battling aliens, that sounds fun.
Yeah. Okay.
How old
Hang on,
was
hang on,
Irvin
hang on.
when
I'm
he
gonna
read
try
that
to
book?
find
He was probably in his early 20s, my assumption.
Hang on, I'm gonna try to put this. Okay, here's the Grand Inquisitor. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna put it in the chat. The idea is Dostoevsky writes this short little story, and that's a free version of it from Project uh, Gutenberg. And he writes the story of the Christ return, and during the Crusades and the Middle Ages, Christ returns to Earth, and the Grand Inquisitor in Seville recognizes that it's Christ, and he has him thrown in prison. And so the entire book is simply the Grand Inquisitor speaking at Christ, right? Who has now returned to Earth, right? As the Son of God, and you know, returning, and so you hear the reasoning. It's all about free will, and it's so interesting. Yeah, it's so interesting. It's such a.
Well, I have it on my phone now.
Yeah. All right, man.
I'll read it this weekend. It's not a long. Right. It's not a long read. It'll take me.
All right.
Not too long.
All right, man. Listen, I'm gonna go. We will talk.
Tomorrow.
We will talk tomorrow, man. We'll talk in the morning. And everybody, I gotta go. I gotta go to Irvin's gathering. So, peace out. And not peace out. Whatever. What do I say? Be well. Be well. That's it, man. Be well. Yeah, we'll be on tomorrow. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.